Hello again, and back for part two of lesson 3-5 inequalities. Equations inequalities. We're going to look at part two. Part two is pretty short. So I'm going to click on that as it's loading here. This part of the lesson is a little weird in a way. You can see what it says here.
Inequalities can describe height requirements, speed limits, time limits, and many other situations. Click and drag an inequality to the picture it describes.
So your choices are over here on the right. If I was going to read these out, I would say x is less than or equal to 5,900. And we know it's less than or equal to because it has that little line under the symbol. Same here, x is greater than or equal to 5,900. Down here, x greater than 14. Over here, x is less than 14. Here, they don't get this too much into this in this lesson, but sometimes you have a variable between two numbers with inequality symbols. So 6 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 8. Over here, 8 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 18. I'm going to knock out the two to the left and right, which are the easier ones. The one in the middle is a little tricky. But here, it's kind of, you have to drive probably to really handle this okay. And you have to ignore the half because it's just telling you that for a half mile, the height is 14 feet. If you were driving under a tunnel, you might see these, meaning that if you were in a truck that was 14 feet, you would just fit under that tunnel. So anything under 14, you would fit. But if your truck was 15 feet, you better not go under the tunnel because you're going to hit the tunnel and mess your truck up. So your truck would have to be less than 14 feet. So if I look over here, my key numbers are 14. X is greater than 14? No way, because my truck would hit the tunnel. And I don't want to hit the tunnel. I want to be able to go through it. So my truck X would have to be less than 14. Well, that seems to make sense. Dinosaur city limit. So I was going to go into the city of dinosaurs. The city limit, 5,900 feet. So the highest it could be is 5,900 feet. So if it's highest, can it be less than 5,900 feet? Yeah. Could it be equal to 5,900 feet? Yeah, because it says the limit is 5,900 feet. But could it be greater than 5,900 feet? No. So this would have to be my choice because the limit is 5,900. It would have to be less than or equal to 5,900. This one I don't really like, and I'll tell you why. Because it assumes that you understand military time, which 6 o'clock at night being 1,800 hours. So this is the correct answer to that one. I don't want to delve too far into that because I don't really think that that's too fair of an example for them to use. I wish they would have used something different. So we're going to kind of just ignore that one. Because of the military time. So don't worry about that one. But to complete it, I had to drop that in there. And so again, knowing that if the tunnel is 14 feet, my truck has to be less than 14 feet to go through. If the dinosaur city limit is 5,900 feet, it can be 5,900 feet, which would be equal to, but also less than would be good. So let's see if Mr. Leary was correct. All right, picture perfect. All right, that sounds good. All right, hopefully that made sense. But again, ignore this one because it's confusing. Next one, what inequality models the situation? So again, driving, if you're driving out where the mountains are, you might hit these curvy roads. So if I'm driving on those curvy roads, this sign tells me that I can only go up to 35 miles per hour. If I go over that, I might go off the curvy road because it's not too safe. So I look at my answer choices. All right, so if I can only go up to 35 miles an hour, is that a less than idea or a greater than idea? Do I want to be greater than 35 miles per hour? Do I want to be faster? No way. So right away, I know I can eliminate those because those tell me that I can be greater than 35 miles an hour. Not a good idea, but I can be less than 35 miles an hour. But it doesn't tell me that it has to be less than 35 miles an hour. It looks like I could also be 35 miles an hour as long as I don't go over it. So I could be less than or equal to 35 miles an hour. So I'm assuming that it's going to be B. All right, and I was correct. Woohoo! Feeling pretty good about myself. All right, so that's the end of part 2. And that's what you're going to be looking at for today. Just if you have questions, let me know. But there's nothing really for you to do in the digits lesson today. What I want you to spend the rest of the time doing today is going on Cool Math or ST Math or Splash Math and working on those. Tomorrow, you're going to look at part 3 of the lesson. And then the following day, you're going to look at the homework for the lesson. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful, and hopefully this is a good way we can look at some of the digits lessons. Any questions? Let me know.